Welcome to the first episode of Evergreen Springs. Today we're officially starting bringing the overgrown, forgotten plat of land back to life. Our journey begins at the very front of the park, laying the foundations for what will become the grand entrance to this new adventure. As you cross the bridge and step into the parking lot, you'll be greeted by a gate that will set the tone for the entire park. From the design of the entrance itself to the turnstile building, where the magic begins, this will be the first impression of Evergreen Springs, and it needs to be unforgettable. We have 3 hours of footage to condense into an engaging episode, so expect plenty of time-lapse and step-by-step breakdowns of the process. Let's dive in and start creating a gateway to Evergreen Springs. Let's dive into the first steps of creating the front gate. The idea was to design something rustic and natural that fits the theming of Evergreen Springs. I planned for 2 small towers on either side of the road with wooden bridge connecting them across the top. This bridge will evidently hold the main parking sign to welcome guests. To get the layout just right, I used a roads grid system to ensure everything lined up perfectly. First, I placed Viking wood walls for the towers, one on either side of the road, and then adding walls facing the bridge and back sides with openings where the sidewalk comes through. The doors were placed allowing guests to walk through the towers towards the park. Next, I used the Viking wooden flooring for the bridge. Keeping the material consistent, this flooring stretches across the road connecting the 2 towers. To add some realism, I incorporated functional Viking gates that open inward. This detail brings the entrance to life, giving it a sense of purpose while remaining virtually appealing. I adjusted the placement so the gates lined up perfectly with the road, ensuring they open inwards towards the park, showing off the decals when viewed from the outside. Next, I move on to adding fencing to the top platform to give the structure a little more finished and secure look. To start, I took on Viking-style fencing pieces and aligned them to the edges of the platform. From there, I moved the same piece to the other side of the structure to check if it stayed in the straight line. If it didn't, I made a small adjustment until I could move the piece across the entire length without shifting out of place. This step is key to making sure the alignment is perfect before placing the rest of the fence. Once I had the alignment right, I placed the remaining fence pieces to fill the length of the platform. After everything was placed, I selected all the fence pieces and made fine adjustments to ensure that they were evenly spaced and balanced. With the front row done, I duplicated the entire section and moved it to the back side of the gate, creating 2 rows of fencing, one on each side of the structure. This gives the platform a symmetrical, polished look that ties the whole entrance together. Finally, I added additional fencing to the edges, opting for a different Viking fence design to keep things interesting. After duplicating and aligning these elements, I centered them perfectly. The result is a cohesive entrance that blends rustic charm and functional design. Placing these on either end of the bridge gave the structure a more dynamic look. Now it's time to work for the main sign for the entrance, which will proudly display the park's name, Evergreen Springs. I started by moving on to an open space in the parking lot, away from any obstacles. This is a critical step because it ensures there are no stray objects, trees, or terrain blocks in the way when grouping and moving the sign later. To start, I used the bold 3D letters for the sign, changing all the colors to a calming blue to match the park's main theme. I began with the word Evergreen, carefully placing each letter one by one, ensuring even spacing as I work across. Instead of copying existing letters, I've added each one individually, adjusting the color each time for coherency. This method helped me maintain better alignment and balance. Once Evergreen was completed, I moved on to Springs, which I decided to stack below. To center it properly, I used the middle letters of each word, G from Evergreen and I from Springs, as my guide. The technique helped me ensure everything was perfectly balanced. I started with the I, then added the remaining letters to complete springs. After finalizing the spacing and alignment, I used a multi-section tool to group all the letters into a single scenery placement. This made it much easier to move the entire sign without worrying about individual pieces shifting out of place. Once grouped, I picked it up and carefully positioned it on the bridge at the entrance. Since the letters appeared to float, I've added a bit of structural support to make it more realistic. I went with metal support beams for a clean, modern look, but changed their color to brown to match the wooden aesthetics of the bridge. I placed the beams behind the letters, aligning them so they balance seamlessly without sticking out awkwardly. Next, I copied the support beams from the top row and placed them behind the bottom row to tie in both words together visually. To complete the look, I added wooden posts on either side of the sign, connecting the metal beams to the bridge structure. This gives the illusion that the sign was securely fastened and integrated with the bridge's design. At this point, the sign was really coming together, but I felt there was more room for more detail to make it truly stand out. This is when I decided to enhance the design with some additional elements. First, I focused on the structure overall support. I started by adding more vertical wooden beams to either side of the building's front corners, ensuring they extended all the way to the ground. Even though you can't see the front of the structure completely because of the wooden wall, I made sure to add supports for coherency and details. It's one of those things I like to do to ensure every part of my build feels complete. It's all about passion for the little details, even if they don't directly impact gameplay. Next, I shifted my attention to the top of the sign. I added horizontal wooden support beams to the frame of the sign. Running from one side of the structure to the other to make it easier, I built a small section of the beams first, aligned them carefully with the edges of the building, then extended it across the entire length. I also decided to include a slight overhang on each of the end beams, giving it a bit more character similar to the look of the log cabin roof. With the wooden framing complete, the sign was starting to feel much more cohesive, but I still felt like it needed something more to really pop. That's when I decided to add the windmills to either side of the structure. The Viking-style windmills add a lot more character and brought some life into the entrance. Their spinning blades give the sense of movement and excitement as guests approach the park. However, the windmills were much larger than the original support beams I had in place, which made them look a little out of proportion. To fix this, I moved the windmills further out into the corners of the building, where the vertical and horizontal supports met. This provided a more balanced look and made the placement feel sturdier. At first, I considered adding more small logs to beef up the supports, but then I remembered the rescale tool. Using it, I was able to resize the existing support beams, making them larger and more proportional to the windmills. This also helped in reduce piece count, which is always a bonus when building large structures like this. The larger beams not only looked better, but also tied the windmills to the rest of the sign together seamlessly. At this point, the sign was really coming together, but I felt like it needed more detail and polish, so I moved on to the lighting. One of the unique aspects of this park is the ability to view it both during the day and the night. With a fully lit up road, parking lot, and bridge already set up, adding lights to the sign would not only enhance visibilities, but it also bringing it to life for nighttime visitors. I started by experimenting with standard lamps, which are great for highlighting signs as they provide directional lighting without overpowering the surroundings. Initially, I placed these lamps on either side of the sign, hoping to illuminate it evenly. However, I quickly realized that the placement left the center of the sign too dark. I realized the sign itself needed to be adjusted to better align with the structure. I moved the entire sign upward, ensuring that it sat higher and more prominently on the building. At the same time, I refined the supports, making them look more realistic and sturdy to properly hold the sign in place. These changes gave structure to a much more cohesive and polished appearance. With the sign repositioned, I proceed by experimenting with lights and adding lamps to the bottom front face of the structure, shining upwards. However, despite these adjustments, the lights still did not make the sign bright enough, especially in the center, which left me searching for a better solution. So I shifted my focus to using spotlights positioned in the grass in front of the building. This approach worked perfectly, as the spotlights illuminated the entire sign and even highlighted the spinning windmills on either side. With the lighting complete, I transitioned back to daytime to start landscaping the area around the entrance. I added a mix of vibrant plants, flowering bushes, and a few trees to frame the sign without overwhelming it. This created a welcome, natural feel while keeping the focus on the entrance itself. Finally, I needed to address the pathways leading into the park. The new structure slightly blocked the original pathways, so I adjusted them to flow through the smaller buildings on either side of the entrance. This not only resolved the issue, but also enhanced the overall layout, making the entrance more functional and visually appealing. I'm really pleased at how the entrance turned out. The combination of lighting, landscaping, and structural decals brings the sense of excitement and wonder to anyone arriving at the park. Returning to the park's main plaza, we focus on the heart of the guest arrival, the Turnstile building. This area will serve as a gateway into the park, seamlessly blending function and style. The plaza itself is already designed with the central fountain, but the real focus here is on the turnstile structure. I decided to start by clearing out the existing entrance gates and opting for a fresh layout. I'm setting up the building's foundation first. I can ensure a smooth, logical flow for both the pathways and the internal features. This method avoids working around existing paths, allowing the design to shine without compromise. To match the park's more humble and grounded theme, I chose breezy block walls for the building. These provide a clean yet unpretentious look, staying true to the park's modest, community-focused vibe. I lay out the framework, ensuring alignment with the existing fences to minimize unnecessary adjustments. Once the building's outline was complete, I adjusted the pathways to meet the structure's edges, creating a cohesive and realistic entrance flow. This step assures a practical guest experience while keeping the aesthetics intact. With the framework in place, I began dividing the interior into zones for turnstiles, ticket booths, and other facilities. By pre-finding these selections, I can visualize the space and ensure a well-organized layout. For the facilities, I include information booths facing inwards for ticket purchases, bathrooms accessible from both inside and outside the park, and essential stores like balloons and hat shops for early souvenirs. I incorporated the food court with burgers, milkshakes, and sodas to cater to early visitors, and I also added an employee rest area. To add a touch of realism, I designed separate entrances for regular guests and VIPs or seasonal pass holders. This setup mimics real-world parks, providing a premium experience for frequent visitors while maintaining efficient flow for everyone else. Although in-game mechanics don't differentiate these entrances, it adds depth to the design. Once the turnstiles were placed, I transitioned to modify walls for the shops and other features, ensuring a cohesive design throughout the structure. With the main structure of the building complete, it is time to focus on the roof design. The roof is a valuable part in the overall look of the functionality of the turnstile building. I've opted for a metal roof for this project. It's not flashy, but it matches the aesthetics of the park that's modest, homegrown, and not backed by a big corporate budget. The decision to use this material reflects the practicality and charm of smaller, locally focused theme parks. To make the construction process easier, I started by attaching the first roof piece to the building group. Once aligned, I created a separate group for the roof itself. This way, the roof can be adjusted or even completely removed without affecting the rest of the structure. Perfect for when interior work is needed later on. After covering the main section with flat roof panels, I introduced curved metal pieces to add unique flair to the building. The curves provide a sense of character and show thoughtful design choices, rather than defaulting to the basic box-like structures. At the front, the curve slopes upward, giving an entrance an inviting look, while the back will slope down for a barn-like appearance. These small touches elevate the overall design, making it more engaging for visitors while maintaining the park's simple charm. The next step was to add more flat roof panels to the building's exterior, extending the overhangs for additional coverage. These overhangs are practical for shielding guests from the elements, whether it's rain or sun, as they navigate the entrance area or shop in the stores. This design decision highlights the park's consideration for guest comfort. While adding the roof walls, I've noticed the roof was sitting slightly lower than expected. Thanks to the group design, this was an easy fix. I simply adjusted the entire roof height to align it perfectly with the rest of the building. From there, I finished filling in the edges, ensuring the roof looked cohesive from all angles. The final design provides both functionality and appeal, blending practicality and thoughtful detailing. With the roof complete, the building feels much more substantial and ready for its next phase. The design aligns well with the park's overall aesthetics, offering a realistic, grounded feel while still standing out with its unique curves and thoughtful layout. Now that the structure is fully enclosed, we can move to the turnstiles and refining the guest flow through the entrance. Alright, now it's time to work on the entrance gates and refine their design. I cleared out all the existing turnstiles again so I can realign everything. My goal was to have them centered with the building for a cleaner and more organized look. The process was straightforward. I placed the gates outside of the building group, aligned them with the pathway, and then used the move tool to position them perfectly at the center of the entrance base. Since the building has an L shape, I repeated the process on the other side, adjusting manually where the grids don't line up. As I worked, I wanted to add a more realistic touch. A great idea came from Jason, a fellow YouTube creator and founder of the Planet Co and Chill Discord community. In one of his videos, he wanted to design part of a roll-down gate, like the kind you'd see in old convenience stores or malls, to close off the park entrances after hours. That got me thinking how I can add something similar while also making the area look functional and aesthetic. First, a quick plug. If you're into Planet Coaster and want to connect with other creators, big or small, it's packed with talent, support, and great conversations about the game and beyond. There's a link in the description below. And don't forget to check out Jason's channel and his latest park project. He's doing some amazing work. Now back to the design. To add some realism, I decided to set up a couple of turnstiles to appear closed. These sections will have gated barriers in front, making it clear they're off limits to guests. Instead of using the guest pathing, I placed employee pathing in the front and back of the gates. This ensures that the guests won't try to walk around these areas, adding to the realism of the gates being closed while maintaining functionality. For the flooring, I wanted a cohesive look. I tried wooden platforms, but the gaps between the planks didn't look quite right, and doubling them up created a rear texture issue. Ultimately, I went with brick flooring. It gave the area a grounded, low-key vibe, as if the structure had been there for a while and had some character to it. With all the bays looking the same, the design felt cohesive and uniform. Next, I tackled the roll-down gate concept. I wanted to look like a metal grate that rolls down from the metal box in the ceiling. After cycling through the options, I found a great piece, the resort window blinds. I resized and recolored them to a metallic silver to give them an industrial look. To complete the design, I added the metal box above the blinds using black colored metal walls, making it look like the gate mechanism. It still felt like something was missing, so I added tracks along the walls to simulate where the gate would slide down. For this, I used resized Z-shaped metal pieces which worked perfectly to create a realistic sliding mechanism. finish it off, I added a base plate at the bottom of the gate where it would lock into place, using a piece with a curved center that fit the design perfectly. Next, I went ahead and created a fully enclosed gate. To do this, I simply took the top pieces from the partial closed design and slid them down, aligning them properly so it looked like the gate was sliding down into place. Once I reached the bottom and ran out of pieces, I copied the blinds and pasted additional sections, moving them upward to cover the entrance. This step was surprisingly easy and gave the effects of the fully closed entrance. With both a closed and partially closed gate completed, I was able to duplicate these designs and apply them to the other entrances. I reshaped and scaled the pieces as needed to fit the top and front of each entrance, ensuring a seamless and consistent look across the entire design. And there you have it. The entrance area is coming together beautifully with realism and a bit of creativity. If you're interested in using the design for your park, let me know. I'm planning on uploading this to a blueprint to the workshop. I can bundle it into a door pack with other designs I've created. That way you can just download it and skip the build process. Let me know what you think in the comments, and let's keep building. Now we're moving into the final phase, adding those finishing touches to bring the entrance building to life. Starting with some drainage details, I placed vent decals in the base of each entrance. These small grates help to give the impression that water can drain away properly, adding another layer of realism. I adjusted the size to fit the space perfectly, grouping the pieces together, and replicated the setup across all entrances. Next, I'll work on the bathroom doors, beginning with the ones outside the park. For this, I used a door design I originally created for my Aqua Summit project, a flume complex I built for a challenge on another Discord server. The doors were placed carefully to align with the pathing, ensuring guests can seamlessly walk through them while giving them the illusion of functioning bathroom entrances. For the maintenance office, which connects to the solar panel pathway, I reused another Aqua Summit door design. I also ensured the paths were properly aligned here so it looks like the employees could use these doors realistically without interfering with guest paths. Moving on to the windows, I wanted to break up the plain walls of the buildings and give some character. After trying a few options, I decided the resort-style shutter window, which fits the park's aesthetics. I adjusted the colors to match the overall theme, adding these windows to various parts of the buildings for a more cohesive look. On the parkside bathrooms, I continued with the same approach, adding matching doors and paths, as well as creating a small patio area leading to the park. This will serve as the starting point for the future builds inside the park. For the staff room, I added another set of staff-only doors and made sure the employee paths were in place, keeping things functional and realistic. Then it was back to adding windows. On the wall next to the fence, I realized that the taller windows I had been using wouldn't fit properly. To address this, I used slimmer, vertical windows that complemented the space. Again, I adjusted the colors to match the park's design. Finally, I went through and finished adding windows to the rest of the building, working my way to the front of the other bathrooms. To break up the design and avoid the feeling too repetitive, I decided to add smaller, thinner windows between the two vertical shutter windows. This subtle variation helps the overall building design feel more dramatic and visually interesting while maintaining a cohesive look. As we wrap up this part of the project, let's take a closer look at the finished turnstile building. From the start, I wanted to create something that felt both functional and unique, giving off the charm of a small park while standing out as a focal point. The design features a curved roof that adds a soft, inviting element while keeping the structure visually interesting. The large arches give it a classic open feel, making it approachable from any angle, and the choice of brick really ties it all together. The textured brickwork adds character, grounding the building in a rustic yet modern aesthetic and blends perfectly with the natural surroundings. If you look at how all these elements, roof, arches, brick, and even the siding gate doors come together, the building really stands out while maintaining that cozy, small park vibe. It feels like a space that has both history and purpose, which is exactly what I was aiming for. The gates themselves not only add a layer of realism, but also provides functionality and flow, giving the park a polished, professional look from the moment guests arrive. As we crossed the bridge here at night, going towards the new entrance gate, the lighting really transformed the atmosphere, giving it a magical and inviting look that captured the park's personality even after dark. Now this may not be a big part of the main park, and a lot of people actually coming to the park won't see this, but I think it came out really well, and I am very excited about it. It just adds another layer of realism that I'm striving to achieve throughout the park. I hope you enjoyed following along with this build. It's always rewarding to see the concept like this come to life and fit so perfectly in a larger version for the park. Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments below, and if you're interested in recreating some of these elements, I'll be uploading blueprints to the workshop so you can easily incorporate them into your own park. And as always, I hope you enjoyed the ride. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep the park alive. We'll see you next time.